probably would be all right if you use so many fucking.
Okay, Amy, just to let you know, you are on mute. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for coming out to our final Empower Hour workshop of 2020. You are in for a treat. I hope you have your paper, your pen, and are ready to take notes. We have Amy Bauman in the house today from Bank of America, here to have a chat on Goal Getter 2021. Why wait until 2021? It begins now. I will pass the floor. Thank you so much for coming out today, Amy.
All right.
Oh,
Well, thank you.
and let me just say real quick, if you have questions on Facebook, please drop them in the chat, and I will make sure they are directed back to Amy. My apologies. Thank you.
Okay, sure. No, thanks for inviting me. And I have to apologize right now. I have the squeakiest desk chair ever. So every time I move, you're going to hear this squeak. And then I've just got people who have decided to make lunch right now in the kitchen. So you might hear all kinds of things. But thank you for having me. So I do work for Bank of America. That is my day job. And then I so love working with women and coaching that I started my own business called Your Development Resource for Personal and Professional Development. So I kind of have created this life for myself that I'm loving. And one of my favorite things to talk about is setting a vision for your life and then goals, and then how do you get to that vision? So try and practice what I preach. But I thought, and I don't know, I know that everybody's on mute right now, and I might have some shy people, but I wanted to at least start off by looking back on 2020, because I really hate to exit the year feeling like, oh, thank goodness that's over. That was a total, waste of a year. So if everybody could just think about one positive result that came from 2020, and you might have to think way back. You might have to think long and hard about one good result. But there has to have been at least one thing. And I'll give you an example. Another women's group that I coach, one of the ladies talked about, she's just busy. She's a real estate agent. She was go, go, go. Her, got her kids on the bus in the morning. And then they went from school to aftercare. And, she was seeing them at like 6 when they picked them up. And then she might have showings. And so her positive from 2020 was, her kids are at this age where she didn't even realize how much they need her. So that was something, it might not be something you think of as a positive, but for her that was. So my thought is that everybody has some positive that they can take. So if anybody wants to share a positive result that came from 2020, I'd love to hear it. I just want to have us in a positive space as we're moving forward.
Well, one positive for me that is kind of halted, but my son got on a plane for the first time, and he actually liked it. So it made me excited because it opened up a lot of doors for us. Eventually, not right now with COVID, but after COVID is over, we get to go places, and I get to take him with me. So that made me really happy.
Yeah, that's awesome. How old's your son?
He's 11.
Okay. Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, good. I look forward to when we can travel much freer again.
Right.
Does anybody else have a positive from 2020 that you want to share?
So as I go to share with you guys, a lot of thoughts kind of flood into my brain at once. So I have to just pick the one I could say most is just, even though COVID has been a disaster for some, for me, it has been a disaster, but the bittersweet, if you like dark chocolate, which I do love, everybody doesn't like it, but the bittersweet part of it, not only is it nutritious for you and it has a interesting taste to let you know you're awake and alive, that's what COVID has done in terms of me putting things in better order than I thought I already had it in and setting goals. And it's been a silver lining for me in a variety of ways that, you know, has protected my household. Even though it's still like Muhammad Ali in the middle of the ring boxing, but at the same time, it's allowed me to be able to bob and move and keep things moving forward, and knowing that, you know, God is in control. But at the same time, if I'd known what I knew from March to now, I would I already had a plan, but I would have worked that plan a little bit better. And so now my posture is going into 2021, in the event that we do get shut down again or whatever happens again, that I am more ready for it. So it has put me into a fighting state. And of course, you know, there's fight or flight, but I'm ready to fight like none other. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so well put. I love your analogies too, with, I mean, from the dark chocolate to the boxing ring. Those are great analogies.
Thank you.
So I'll give it another minute if anybody else wants to share. If not, I'll move on. It's fine. I don't want to pressure anyone.
Share. I think for me, the pandemic has really brought a lot of, I think, like going back to old school when people come more together, and you find like where you may have more family time, even things that we took for granted, we're looking for more simplicity, you know, and it's like you're really enjoying your family time, but also, you know, learning like different professions, how the importance of technology, and we're having to help our children with school, you know, and then really seeing how teachers are more appreciated for the job that they actually do, that we really didn't realize how much or how intense it is. So I think, and even just trying to grow ourselves in jobs or learning different trainings and different use for technology. And we're also being able to use that technology personally, you know, reach out to our families and things like that. And I think we just give more appreciation for life, you know, and our safety and our health.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that is the word, pivot. We have learned to pivot this year. And it's funny because we were forced to, you know, nobody likes change usually, you know, it's not like a voluntary thing. And with this, it was you either change or you're just going to be stuck in this for, you know, God knows how long. So you were kind of forced to adapt. And hopefully as we move into 2021, and you know, there's a lot of promising things coming our way. I heard, you know, news about the vaccine and everything this morning. But I hope we don't lose those lessons, you know, that we take that with us and just build on it and remember. So thank you guys for sharing. And then the next thing that I want to roll into is, as you think about the year ahead for 2021, you know, fast forward a year from today, what would you like to look back and say, you know, oh, I'm so happy this happened from 2021. So, you know, kind of projecting ahead a whole year, and what would you like the positive result to be next year? And you've got a whole year to make that happen. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about for the next bit here is, you know, you have to start with a vision, right? You have to know where you're going. That's kind of like your end destination on your map, right? So that you can put in that destination on your GPS and then get all the directions that will get you there, all of the turns, your roadmap. So I want you to think ahead about a year from now, what is that destination look like? And then we can work on the goals that will get you there. So I know it's a little tricky this year because we all know that there are a lot of things that could pop up that we don't even know are existing, right? And like you said, TJ, before, that, you know, we like to be in control. We, you know, ultimately realize there's, you know, a higher power that maybe we're not in control, but we can do everything that we can, right? So in thinking about that, like a year from now, you know, are you in a place right now where you're looking for new work? Are you looking for a new skill? Are you looking for a different place to live? Taking control of your finances, anything like that, that is your vision for yourself to be in this better place a year from now. That's what I want you to think about. If you have pen and paper and you're not driving, then go ahead and jot that down. Where do I want to be a year from now? And that's kind of your vision. It's a short-term vision. But I think for right now, let's start there with just where do you want to be a year from now? And I will be quiet so you can jot down some notes, kind of what your vision is for yourself a year from now. Being online makes interactive coaching a little bit difficult because I can't see you and when you're ready to move on. So I kind of have to just keep rolling, and you can, speak up if you need more time or whatever. But so then once you have, this where you want to be a year from now, we need to think about writing out your goals. And I had shared with Bridget, I like to use the framework, the SMART goals. And so there's a handout that I sent her. If, maybe if you want to forward it to the people, email afterwards. I just think it's super helpful. This little guy right here. I know that's going to be backwards on your camera, but I like it because it just, first of all, in this graphic, it's great because if I can't remember what it is, what SMART stands for and what the questions are, I have a little cheat sheet. But so SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely goals. So if you are writing, does anybody have a goal that they want to share? Then I can use like yours as a real example. Otherwise, I'll just make one up.
I have a goal. One of my goals is to re-enter the workplace.
Okay, perfect. So when we are using this, and it's a subtle difference because that's a really good goal. But we want to be like super specific because what we want to make sure is that we don't have like a wish list, right? Because we can start, or a to-do list, we can start spouting off like, I'm going to get a better job. Well, that's extremely vague. We don't know like where to even begin with that sort of a goal. So if we're specific, then you would say, and what was it you just said, that you want to enter back into the workplace?
Yes, and yes, a new career path and because I haven't worked in several years, so I'm re-entering the workforce.
Okay.
And I already have like the type of job that I'm interested in.
Okay, perfect. What kind of work are you looking to go into?
A Scrum Master or project management.
Okay. See, I kid myself when I think I'll remember things. So now I'm actually jotting down the notes as you talk because I don't remember. Once I hear it, it's like already I'm floating on to the next thing. Okay, so specific, then you're looking to re-enter the workforce. I'm looking for a project manager job, right? Thank you, Bridget, for putting that up. And then measurable. So how will you know when you achieve that goal? Well, for this particular goal, it's pretty clear, when you get the job offer and you accept, then that was measurable, you got it. Achievable. So is it in your power to accomplish it? And this one I always find is probably one of the trickier parts of a SMART goal, because it is achievable. You're not saying that you want to, be the next astronaut and you have no training. So this is definitely achievable for this goal. The only like little thing to remember is we don't know what the job market's going to be like, things like that. So Always take that into consideration, but you have several things that you can do within your power to make this an achievable goal. Realistic, again, can you realistically achieve it? It's not something that's beyond, education that you could get or already have, or so, check, it's realistic. And then timely, when exactly do you want to accomplish it? So I think with a lot of us, we set goals, and the piece that we miss the most is the time piece. And then that's when it ends up being more of a wish, because once you set a deadline on something, it makes it real. So if you say that you want to achieve this by the end of next year, then you've set a deadline on it, and your brain is already thinking, okay, working up to that, you're doing your timeline in your head or on paper, even better, of how you're going to get there. Okay, so does that make sense to everybody, how I just used the framework and kind of just made a couple little tweaks to your goal just to make it more specific and the timely piece on it? Does anybody want me to go back over any piece of that before I move on? Okay, so the next part then is once you say, okay, yes, this is my SMART goal, this is what I want to work on, we need to start looking at, okay, so we know what the goal is, how are we going to get there? We need to actually take the action steps. So in this case, one of the first things you would need to do maybe to break out like this, I call them mini goals to help you achieve this, is how are you going to find out about these jobs? So, are you going to be, checking Indeed for job listings? Are you networking within the industry? Is there, are there meetings that you can go to where you're meeting people who would be able to give you a heads up that they're hiring? So it'd be, finding out about the jobs. Are there any, is there any education or certifications that you need to get for this? Are there, if you had previous experience and you need to update something, are there courses you can take online? So that might be another mini goal. What resources do you have? Again, if you're like with any kind of networking group or people that you can, kind of start getting like the current environment, those would all be resources. So, Teresa, does that make sense? Everything that I'm saying about your specific goal?
Yes, it does. The only thing I think I was going to ask you about is the measurable part. Could you repeat something about the measurable part? I was writing down the M, but could you give me maybe something a little more specific with measurable?
Yeah, so for getting the job, right, for this goal, it's pretty measurable that you either you get the job or you don't, right? If it was a goal that was more like, let me think here. I like to bounce back to weight because it's something universal that everybody understands. Like if you said that you were going to lose, 10 pounds by Easter, again, that's measurable because you can get on a scale and see, yes, I lost 10 pounds, right? So you could measure that as opposed to, I'm trying to think one that's not maybe super measurable. I mean, sometimes it's just like a yes, no. Like if you're going to, I'll go back to education. If you were going to, get a certificate in something, say, right? That's either a yes, no. But if you were like in a sales goal and you said, I'm going to improve my sales for the first quarter 50%, better than last quarter, right? Then that would be your measure. So it's really just putting like on a lot of things, putting a number on it or a yes, no, like you achieve it or you don't. So that's all that measurable is.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful.
Sure, you're welcome. Are there any other questions about applying SMART for SMART goals?
Teresa, did you need me to put the graphic back up?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I love that graphic. I go back to it like all the time. The questions that are on it, I think, are so helpful at the bottom there. I did want to say too, and again, this is kind of like, it's this balance that we have to have with things. We want to set both goals that are achievable, that are totally within our power. We know we can hit that goal by the time that we've set for it. And we also want to set things that are considered stretch goals. So those are your things that, somebody around you might look at it and go, I don't know if that's achievable or realistic. But if it's something that you feel like, you know what, I'm going to buckle down and I'm going to hit this goal, then that's a stretch goal. And those are perfectly fine to do. So for example, and Teresa, I got to tell you, I don't know what a project manager makes, and I don't even know if this is the best example, but I'm going to try and turn it into one. So your goal is to get the job, and that's totally achievable and realistic. If you said that you were going to, get the job and say make, I don't know, $50,000 more than the previous job that you had doing that, then that might be a stretch goal. I'm not saying that it's not achievable, it's not realistic. I'm saying it's a stretch goal. Like you would have to really work your tail off to get to that point, right? So I don't know if that's the best example, but that's what I mean by a stretch goal. Like I mentioned sales goals earlier, if the previous quarter you had a number, and then for the next quarter you said, I'm going to do 200% more. Okay, well, if the market is right and you already have this idea that, it'll be hard, but I can do it, then that's a stretch goal. So my whole point with that was to balance out, have both goals that are within your grasp, that if you just do X, Y, and Z, you can hit that goal. But then also have stretch goals where you're like, oh, I have to do A, B, C, D, E all the way through to Z to get this goal, but I could do it, right? Because then those are the things that challenge you. Those are the things that will help you grow more, really push you to excel. So I recommend setting both the super realistic and then the stretch goals. Does that make sense?
It does to me. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All right, good. So the other thing that I want to talk about is, and kind of talking about that, setting the goal and if it's a stretch goal or, achievable. And so much of this is mindset. And I love talking about mindset as well. You really have to just believe in what you're writing down. Like if you go into this and you're already saying, I'm going to write this as a goal, but I know there's no way I'm going to do this. This is going to be so hard. You've counted yourself out. So you have to go into really believing. And even if there's part of you that's like, I really want this, I don't know if I can do it. There are ways to start tricking your brain or retraining your brain to believing that you can do this. And this is what I find so fascinating with neuroscience. They found that with your thoughts, you can actually retrain your brain, which is super cool. So if you take a person who has always been told, you're not going to amount to anything, it may take a long time, depending on how long that person has been told that and had these negative thoughts. But with the right, affirmations and, starting off with, I am successful. I am, beautiful. Just negating whatever you have been told your whole life. With time, you can actually change your brain so that it starts believing what you're saying. So it's the same thing with goals. If you go in and you have this goal for yourself and you're saying, there's no way I can do this, then there's no way you can do this. But if you go in and you're saying, I am totally capable, I am going to achieve this goal, then that's setting you up for the right mindset to achieve. So that's one of the things I like to talk about is the mindset behind your goals and the positive affirmations. The I am statements If you're writing, then that's a biggie. I am statements are huge because your brain believes whatever follows I am, right? So you want to watch your I am statements. Make sure they're always like, I am successful. I am smart. I am capable. And just really watch what's going on in your head with things, especially when things get like stressful. If you're around certain people that, you know, trigger you, watch what kind of statements are starting to get in your head. Make note of that, and then really start to work to, you know, challenge those statements and make them I am, and then something positive. The other thing to look at is, you know, you have these goals that you want to achieve. I'm trying to think of this saying right now. It's something about, well, the easy one, nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So if you do the same things that you've always done, you're going to get the same result. So look at your habits. If, you know, if you know that you need to put so many hours a day reaching out to people, making connections, you know, so many hours a day studying, just whatever it is, yet your typical day is, you know, waking up at noon and looking at Facebook for an hour and then getting something to eat. And, you know, maybe you put in like, you know, it's the afternoon and you, oh, I haven't done much. And then you have like 30 minutes of, you know, connecting with somebody. You know, that's a habit that's probably going to need to change. So look at the habits. The same thing. Again, I always go back to like diet and exercise because I just think that's universal and we all understand it. Habits are huge there. You know, if your habit is that you skip breakfast, try and eat a healthy lunch, and by dinner you eat, you know, 3,000 calories, right? That's a habit that's not going to help you very well in your weight loss goal. So look at your mindset, pay attention to I am statements, look at your habits. You know, what habits can you challenge? Which ones can you start changing to get you where you want to be? And the third thing, this is a big question to write down, is am I willing? And the am I willing kind of goes with the habits as well. Because how many times do we hear friends and family say something, their goal is, I'm going to stick with weight loss, I'm going to lose, you know, 50 pounds by summer. Okay. But you know that you have heard them say the same thing year after year. And then they go to the gym, you know, at New Year's. By January 15th, you know, it was too hard. It was too much work. The gym was stinky. I didn't like the person at the gym. The gym was packed. All these excuses come up. And you eventually start looking at that person and just say, they're not willing, right? They're not willing to make the changes. They're not really willing to commit. This is just a goal that they keep putting out there. It's on that wish list. It's not a real goal. So I like to go back to that, am I willing? It is an important question before you're going to make any kind of change, especially with your habits, right? Your finances. Am I willing to not buy coffee while I'm out? I'm going to drink my coffee at home. Am I willing, you know, whatever it is that you need to change? That's a huge question that will help push you through like those habit changes. And here's the flip side of that. If you say that to yourself, am I willing? And the honest answer, and here's the big thing, we have to be honest with ourselves. If your answer is, you know what, no, I'm not willing, life's short, I want to get my cup of coffee while I'm out because I enjoy it so much, that's okay. Like, don't beat yourself up about that. Just instead look at what the goal is, look at what the habit is, and see if there's another way. Okay, life's too short, I don't want to give up my coffee while I'm out. However, I just, you know, I renegotiated my my phone bill or something like that, you know, like find it somewhere else. I'm totally willing to make phone calls to lower my bills, and there is where I'm going to save the money. So I'm going to recap those three things that I think are like super important is your I am statements, for your mindset. Make sure you're staying in a positive frame of mind. And if you're not there, you can start changing it with your I am statements. Look at your habits. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So look at what habits need to change, and then ask yourself the question, am I willing? And take the negative out of that, like that. When you ask yourself, am I willing? If the answer is no, it's okay. It just means you're looking for a different way. If your answer is yes, then super, you're already on the right track. So yeah, those are my 3 tips for, I guess, not just setting the goal, but actually getting the goal. So use your SMART worksheet, use that framework for setting the goal, and then use those 3 things that I just said for actually going and getting the goal. So I feel like I just talked a whole lot. So do you have questions, or, do you want to work through an example of your own? Anything I can clarify?
I have a question, Amy. I know for me, a lot has happened in 2020, and pandemic or not, I'm praying for the best in 2021. But it's like my days, my nights, everything has become one big day. How do you find your way back to time management? Like before, I mean, I used to have Post-its and I was so on it, but I felt like the deeper we got into the pandemic, the more I lost that skill that I had
Yeah.
to manage my time a little bit better.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Because one thing, let's give ourselves some grace, because we've been through a lot, and we're rolling in now to the holidays, and maybe you just need a break. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, is maybe you just need a break so that you can kind of have that time to hit the reset button. Like, it goes back to taking care of yourself. And I personally find that when I feel like I'm just go and I'm bouncing from like my day job to my job, and then I have this other side gig, right, I'm bouncing all over, and sometimes I just feel burnt out. And I might know, like what you're saying, I know I need to do something on a certain timeline, and I just can't make myself do it. So for me, if I have a day where I can just it can be something simple, like I'm just going to go wander around Myers for a while and shop. I'm just going to get my groceries. And like I said about coffee, maybe I'm going to go get a coffee and just kind of not have all these pressures on me for a little bit. And then with that clear head, I start writing. Because I had a similar experience as what you're saying a couple months ago, and I just had to write it out. I was like, where is my time going? Because everything's blending, and I'm just like robbing from Peter to pay Paul, but with time is what was happening. And when I wrote it on paper with that clear head, that's important, I saw how much like wasted time I had. And really, it was just a result of because I needed downtime. So I found how much time I was wasting on social media, how much time I was sitting watching TV as like, oh, this is my time with the kids. But, when you're just sitting there watching TV, and I'm not saying like a movie night's not enjoyable, but what I was doing was not like really time with the kids. It was just vegging kind of thing, and lost time. But once I saw it on paper, I was like, oh goodness, I've got to change this. And then that really helped me look at, okay, here's where I need to start moving. And for my work day, I was able to block like, okay, from, here to here, I'm going to hit all the like hardest projects and tasks first. And then, when I get to lunch, like I'm taking an actual lunch time. And it might not be a long time, just like a half hour for yourself instead of trying to sit and work at the same time, sort of thing. And I don't know what your schedule looks like and all that, but just like then you're bouncing to, for schooling for the kids, right? And like just try and, if at all possible, get a time block for that where you're dedicated to it. but I really think those are the keys. Is first of all, take care of yourself, come at it with a fresh head, and then start writing down. Because once you see it in black and white, you might have some ahas where you're like, oh, I didn't even realize I was doing that, and this is how I feel about that. And then you can kind of change it. But again, give yourself some grace, get through like the holidays. And here's the funny thing about like New Year's, right? We all are hoping that with New Year's Day 2021, like all of the crap goes away, right? And we know it's not like that. It's not like we get to throw it away. Our calendar is just a way to keep time. It doesn't physically go. Like the same things you're feeling at 11:59 on December 31st are going to roll into January 1st. But what it does do for us is it gives us like a mental, like a visual reset, just flipping the calendar. And I'm like this every single month. When you flip the calendar or rip it off or whatever, that like just that action helps you feel like, okay, I can start fresh again. So, like I said, just get through the holidays, be able to journal some maybe with a fresh head, and then know that, like that's a great time to go, okay, now I'm going to implement. I've thought about it. This is what I think I need. I'm rested. Hopefully now's the time to implement.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. If anybody else has anything, I'm happy to talk.
Hi, this is TJ. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I'm only asking because I'm behind the wheel. But I valued everything Miss Bridget said, as well as what you just said, Miss Amy. And I hear myself and see myself. So sometimes I gave myself a if you want to call it a buzzword for 2020, and it was called ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And going into 2021, I'm postured for a different word, and it's a combination of between being authentic, which I think I'm authentic. I just think I keep lying to myself, even though I'm authentic. And what I mean when I say that is, I have things in a planner, and I say at such and such a time I'm going to do X, Y, Z. That time goes around, and the timer goes off, and I hit the little button that gives me snooze time or reschedule it, if you will. And when I look at, and when you talk about that assessment part, I look at it and see that I do that to things that are indicative to me. But if I were doing it for Bridget, I wouldn't do it. If I were doing it for you, Amy, I wouldn't do it, or Melissa or Teresa, I wouldn't do it that way. So in terms of being authentic and honest, I heard what you said in terms of doing, getting a journal and doing things with a clear head, but working on the discipline, the compromises between being authentic and being disciplined. I know what it takes to be disciplined. And when you talked about being willing, the habits, and I'm willing, and I'm also able. I add able to that, willing and able, but somehow, some way, even using the planner, I get mixed up on what's today, what time it is, the same thing that Miss Bridget was, well, kind of sort of the same thing she was sharing. And just staying on top of it. So pretty much it just, to me, sounds like just all over every day if you need to rebuild that habit. Is that what it takes to get that discipline to do what it is I know I say I want to do, and I say I'm committed to doing?
Yeah. So the first thing I would do is look at those things and, be completely honest with yourself. Like, how does that make you feel when you see that pop up on your list? If it's something that you should be doing, but is it something that you have decided you should be doing, or is it somebody else has kind of put that on you that you should be doing? So look at how it makes you feel. It sounds like some of the things that you're saying, though, you're saying like you want to do that, it's the right thing to do, but when it comes to it, maybe the discipline has kind of, slipped away. So I'm trying to think about, there was a book that I read, and it was like I was reading it for a completely different reason, but the way they worded it hit me. And I want to think about how they said it. It was something about, if we do the things that we are supposed to do instead of the things we feel like doing, that's discipline. And when I read it, I kind of like, oh, I have to read that again. I must have read it like at least 3 times before it started sinking in on how many things that I know I should do and that I want to do, but then when it comes time to do it, I don't feel like doing it. So I don't. So that's just being, not disciplined. So, bigger question then is, well, how do you get discipline? And this goes back to you just have to do it. Unfortunately, you can read it every step of the way and do it, because once you do, then you start building momentum, right? And so like you're saying, about rebuild the habit. So I'll use networking. People who seem to either love or hate networking. And I can go either way on a given day. But so if I know that to build my business, I need to network, and I have blocked out time, for certain networking meetings, and I get to that, and there's just like this negative vibe that's coming in, to my stomach. That's where I'm kind of fighting, like, okay, I know this is what I have to do for my business, even though I don't feel like doing it. It's a real honest, like, yeah, this stinks, but if it was for somebody else, right, that's my job to go network, I would go do it, and I wouldn't think twice about it because it's my job. So that's kind of that discipline piece. And you said it perfectly, if it was for Bridget, you wouldn't blow off Bridget, so you can't blow off yourself either. So that would be the first thing. If it's something that 100% you need to do and want to do for your like long-term goals, then you're just going to have to unfortunately suck it up, start making it like a habit or something that's going to be on your schedule, and do it. Now, the flip side of that, again, is look at the things and your, how you feel about it. If it comes up on your schedule, you're like, man, why do I hate doing this so much? And I'll stick with the networking example. Maybe I don't like the networking group. Maybe there's somewhere else I can do this, or a different way. Maybe I don't like it because right now networking is all virtual and I'm an in-person person, so you can look at those things and see, is there a tweak? So, I feel like when I give you guys answers, I never have just say like, this is what you do, right? I give you all these like steps and options. But I really feel like, that's again, where your journaling comes in, is just what is coming up for you emotionally. And if it is just something
That's a great perspective.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. I feel like I cut her off.
Yeah. Thank you, dear. Phone kind of jotted out.
Okay.
Again.
Okay. Well, yeah, you're welcome. I hope that helps. It's just, you really look at what emotions come up, and if you still have to do it, but maybe there's a different way to go about it.
On my screen. I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else want to talk through anything?
I was wondering, how do you set goals with so much being unpredictable right now? Just like, I mean, if I set a goal to, get a new job, the job that I seek out might close because of the pandemic. So, it's like a lot of stuff is just up in the air. So how would you suggest going forward with setting goals right now?
Yeah. So the other day I presented to a company and somebody asked, well, what if you set these stretch goals and then you don't get them? Okay, well, I wasn't prepared for the question because of that positive mindset that I always try and have, but it's a perfectly legit question, right? Sometimes it just doesn't happen. And so after the question, I thought about it better. And the important thing is, right, we always have to be setting goals, regardless of, looking at all these other what ifs. And if it doesn't happen in that time frame, it doesn't mean that it won't happen. And it doesn't mean that all the steps you took to get there weren't productive. So if you are looking to get a job and we don't know what, the next year holds, think about all those things that we talked about, like, do you need to network? Do you need to get more education? What books on the topic can you read just for your own like enjoyment and knowledge? If you then get to the end of the year and you didn't get the job yet, look at all the things that you still achieved and all the positives that you can take away by having set the goal. And I use the word yet, like you haven't achieved it yet. Yet is a magic word for a lot of different things, and that's one of them. The other is like, the example stands out. One of my friends' daughters was trying out for volleyball and she'd never played. And she said something about, I just can't do, it was a certain skill. And then I said, well, yet, you can't do that yet. And it completely changes the tone of everything, right? Because when you just say it as a statement like, I can't do that, then it's like a final statement. But when you say, I can't do that yet, right? It's like this, but there's still hope on the end. So everything has a hopeful, optimistic piece on the end of it, or at least I try to. So that is the thing. I would just look at like, and always set your goals higher. Like when I was talking about stretch goals, set it higher, because even if you fall short, look how high you came, right? So, always keep your bar high and just know that, yes, we do want to set a time limit on our goals as far as the SMART goals go. But, if it doesn't happen and it was out of your control, and I'm not saying making excuses, but I'm saying don't also beat yourself up. Just, maybe readjust the timetable on that and keep doing all the things that you're learning and all the other positives that you're taking away from it. And maybe even just, readjust all those other mini goals that lead to it. So again, not like a clear, I get to tell you one answer. I have to tell you like all these other things that come with it. All right. If anybody else has anything, we have a couple minutes left. Otherwise, I will turn it back over to Bridget.
Any questions before we end, ladies?
Just thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for letting me chat with you. I so enjoy this time, like just being able to, just conversation, I think is so important, and everybody's really going through similar things. So to get it out is just so helpful. But
Yes.
Thanks for letting me have this time with you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out,
Yeah.
Amy. We appreciate you. Melissa, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying thank you as well.
Yes, I wanted to say thank you. This was very helpful.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah, I hope you guys can take something away from it.
Yes, and I hope you can come back maybe Q1 and check in on us.
Oh, that would be
as we set our goals.
delightful.
Oh, thanks, Amy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, ladies. Well, hopefully I'll see you tomorrow at our celebration, which will be
Yay.
virtually. Virtual celebration, but we're going to have as much fun as we can, right? Well, thank you, beauties. Thank you so much, Amy. I look forward to working with you again in 2021. Wishing everyone a safe and healthy weekend. Get out and enjoy this beautiful day. I cannot believe we are so close to Christmas and it's almost 65 degrees in Columbus, but it's beautiful. Get out and enjoy. Thanks so much for your time, Amy.
All right.
Have
Thanks,
a
you
great
guys.
rest
Take
of the
care.
day. Bye.
All right.